For more analysis of the trial, we bring in ABC News contributor and host of the Law and Crime Network, Brian Buckmire. Brian, good to see you.
Good to see you as well.
All right, let's start with Dr. Andrew Baker, shall we, who performed George Floyd's autopsy. His report said that Floyd died of, quote, cardiopulmonary arrest, complicating law enforcement, subdual restraint, and neck compression. It did not find that Floyd died from lack of oxygen, as known as asphyxia, which is what medical experts are now saying. How's the prosecution dealing with this discrepancy?
Yeah, so I think the prosecution is dealing with it pretty well. First, it comes down to the definitions. That quote that you read is the cause of death. And Dr. Baker explained the difference between cause of death and manner of death. Now, what the cause of death is saying is the heart stopped, right? Now, asphyxia simply means a lack of oxygen to the body. And as we would all know, just through common sense, if my heart stops, the rest of my body's not going to get oxygen. So it's really a sequential issue of how George Floyd died. And I think the prosecution was able to explain that very technical concept to the jury pretty well.
All right, so let's play this moment when Chauvin's attorney questions forensic pathologist Dr. Lindsay Thomas, who's supposed to be a witness for the prosecution. Take a listen.
Let's take the police out of this, and I'm going to ask you a hypothetical. Let's assume you found Mr. Floyd dead in his residence. No police involvement, no drugs, right? The only thing you found would be these facts about his heart. What would you conclude to be the cause of death?
In that very narrow set of circumstances, I would probably conclude that the cause of death was his heart disease.
Brian, how significant was that testimony?
So from what we're getting from the pool reporters, not many of the jurors actually took notes during that hypothetical. I think that it maybe fell a little flat. And then, interestingly enough, attorney Jerry Blackwell came back with his own hypothetical that was objected to, but the jury still heard it, talking about if Mrs. Lincoln, talking about the former president who was assassinated, took out Wilkes Booth, who shot him in the head, what would that conclusion be? Now, it was objected to, but the thought is still there. If we saw President Lincoln just laying on the ground by himself and didn't know he was assassinated, we would think it would be a suicide. But knowing all of the facts and seeing the video, we know he was assassinated. And I think that's the point that the jury heard from the prosecution.
Well, Dr. Baker also talked more about Floyd's underlying heart condition. Let's watch this for a moment.
You know he had very severe underlying heart disease. So he has a heart that already needs more oxygen than a normal heart by virtue of its size, and it's limited in its ability to step up to provide more oxygen. In my opinion, the law enforcement subdual restraint and the neck compression was just more than Mr. Floyd could take by virtue of those heart conditions.
So Dr. Baker says that this was, quote, more than Floyd could take. Does it make a difference legally if Chauvin's actions were the direct cause of Floyd's death versus a contributing cause?
So legally, it doesn't really affect it. In tort law, the phrase they use is the eggshell rule, basically meaning you take the person as they are. And if you think about it, it makes sense. There's a reason why I can't go up to a person who is suffering from lung cancer from years of smoking and then choke them to death and blame the lung cancer. You have to take the person as they are, and if you cause that death, regardless of their medical background, you're the person who murdered them.
So, Brian, what do you think might stick with jurors over the next couple of days after such an intense and emotional week?
Yeah, so the prosecution was very, very smart to line up their witnesses in a way that the jury is going to be left with Friday night, all Saturday, and all Sunday to sit with the testimony, not only of Dr. Chauvin from yesterday, who was phenomenal and captivating by so many, but also from the medical examiner. That's the crescendo that we saw from all the medical experts so far, where he solidified both the cause of death, the manner of death, and the fact that the heart and the drugs in George Floyd was not a reason for his death.
Brian Buckmire, thanks for being there for us. Appreciate your insights.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. George Stephanopoulos here. Thanks for checking out the ABC News YouTube channel. If you'd like to get more videos, show highlights, and watch live event coverage, click on the right over here to subscribe to our channel. And don't forget to download the ABC News app for breaking news alerts. Thanks for watching.